We're back with another in real time. And we had to, I mean, man, we put out last week's in real time, and I'm not going to lie to you guys. A piece of me died because I was like, shit, we should have hit on the Ticketmaster stuff. We took Ticketmaster to task way, way back on episode 4. So the fact that they're finally kind of maybe being called out under the carpet is music to our ears, literally and figuratively, right?
I agree. And I'll say this little segment was very unplanned. Like, we just wrapped an interview that won't drop for another couple weeks. And hey, we like talking to each other. So we're like, let's hang on. And we digested the Ticketmaster news all week. So we're like, let's just respond to this shit. So Nate, what do you think about the Ticketmaster shenanigans?
Yeah, so the Ticketmaster stuff, man. So I think for me, historically, the Ticketmaster debacle, antitrust bullshit, any kind of deep dive into what the fuck is going on surfaced early for me because I'm a Pearl Jam fan. We all know this. I'm a big PJ fan. And they went after Ticketmaster in like 1996 when I first got into Pearl Jam. So I was like, it was very front and center for me. Like, yeah, that is bullshit. I'm not even going to shows yet, but I can't believe they're charging 25% of the face value of the ticket. That's insane. So history tends to not repeat itself. It oftentimes rhymes. So it's doing the same thing in 2022. Most recently with Taylor Swift and her tour selling out pre-sale. So in other words, a lot of fans not even having the option to buy tickets in the first place because it's been sold out pre-sale. So there's a lot of controversy. There's new lawsuits being filed, class action against Ticketmaster / Live Nation on what is actually going on here. It's clearly a monopoly, but how can we dissect this and how can we
take the power back? We need to take the power back, right?
Yeah. So, and now with the transparency and the access to information, I think we're kind of in a really prime spot to really showcase this point that this has been fixed for a long time, but now more than ever, now that the pandemic is starting to ease up a little bit, the music industry is thriving. Everyone's going to shows. We're stoked to go to shows. We're trying to figure out ways to go to shows. We're trying to put off responsibilities to go to gigs. So the one rein holder on the ticket sale outlet is Ticketmaster / Live Nation. And what the fuck is going on? I guess that's what we're trying to get at is what's going on.
You said two things that piqued my interest. The music industry is killing it, and I would tell you that the industry is killing it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the artists, right? Like, totally. We talked to Spose about touring a few weeks back, and it's the artists are still trying to find their way in this new pandemic-y world, but the industry itself is finding its way into everyone's pocket. My issue with Ticketmaster is they weren't ready for some massive pre-sale that they said they were ready for, and then they go ahead and cancel the general public on sale because they're afraid of how many people are going to come back at them to get on and try to buy tickets. And they said, 14 million people made it onto the website trying to get to 2 million or so tickets that were sold. You know how many tickets you have in a pre-sale. Only send out that many or maybe a little bit over, like you oversell a flight. Don't give everybody and their brother the code. Find a way to not make that way. No, Ticketmaster is just trying to keep their hands in your pockets on that stuff. So they want everybody and their brother in there to make sure that all of it gets sold, and then it gets bought up by bots, and now it's on the resale market, right?
Well, like we said in previous episodes, we know what's going on. We know it's jumped the shark. We know it's jumped the shark for so long. But what was the icing on the cake? I don't know if you guys saw this. This week, there was a big headline of an older gentleman that stumbled upon Taylor Swift tickets that's going to make a fortune. You guys know what I'm talking about?
No.
Do you know what I'm talking about, Nate?
I didn't see this, no.
Okay. There's a guy that's a ZZ Top fan that somehow in his checkout process bought Taylor Swift tickets. He happened to be in the moment during the pre-sale. He accidentally bought 8 tickets to Taylor Swift.
Oh, wow.
He timed it, and we know the bots buy up everything. So he happened to magically time it so much so that he's gonna make to the tune of 10 grand per ticket.
Wow.
Because he likes the fucking bearded wonders, right?
Wow.
In a system where that's even able to happen, it's fucked.
Yeah. Well, so you both brought up good points. most recently with Ticketmaster's new infrastructure is there's a thing called dynamic pricing, which is basically a supply and demand back end for the system. So more demand, the ticket prices actually fluctuate, kind of like a stock. So this guy happened to be at checkout. He likely got some kind of notification, hey, if you like this, you might like this, which doesn't correlate with ZZ Top and Taylor Swift.
No, but Ticketmaster would do that, A. And B, I don't think Taylor had dynamic pricing on for this, just FYI.
Okay. But regardless, this is an upsell, likely from Live Nation, as you're at checkout, you like ZZ Top, cool. Here's a hot ticket, you're already at checkout, do you want to add to your tab? And the guy's like, sure. He probably didn't even know the value of resale, but also that option didn't exist. Usually it was Ticketmaster, you buy the tickets and you're good for them, or you sell them to a friend, or if you really want to go, super shady, you put them on Craigslist. But regardless, it's a different market, it's a different scene, and this guy just happened to be, I guess, digitally in line at the right time at the right place. So it really drives incentive for people that had no intention to resell tickets in the first place. But if you're on eBay and you have something that's worth money, you're going to sell it because, hey, that's the hustle. So it puts people in a position where you wouldn't normally do this, but because of the situation and given the whole status of the world economy, like, yeah, I'll fucking flip.
It's
tickets.
amplified it. It's 100% amplified it. And
yeah.
Hey, the reselling bots have existed for ages. There's back-end deals. You're right. With Ticketmaster to these third parties, that's existed for a while. But now the margins have amplified. The opportunities are there. And now it's in the limelight. So now you're right. People will come out of the woodwork. Like, I agree with you there.
Oh, and there's the other thing that is interesting to me with this whole thing is that they knew they were going to have demand for this tour, right? This specific Taylor Swift tour. And the fact that they say that they sold out however many tickets, and like they kind of almost bragged that they had that many people on the website. You can't handle this tour. You can't handle the fact that this many tickets are going on sale when most of them are just being bought up by resellers to hit StubHub, to hit the Ticketmaster Verified, to hit SeatGeek, to hit whatever there is out there, right? And the fan, the guy that gets the 8 tickets by accident, he's one of a very small number of people that actually got through and bought tickets.
True,
like
100%.
Most of these tickets were sold the minute that they went on sale to somewhere else to sell them at an upcharge. On top of the fact that they, will do dynamic pricing with other artists. I know Bruce Springsteen got a lot of heat with that earlier this year. But in this situation, it's these tickets they were earmarked for elsewhere to make more money over and over and over. And I wouldn't be shocked if the artist gets a cut of that. I mean, we've heard that in the past. The artist is probably a little in on that, and Ticketmaster is the fall guy. And they continue to do that. And I think they were out front and center last week when this all went down, being the fall guy and being like, yeah, we had 14 million people hit the platform. We weren't ready for that. We didn't realize Taylor Swift was that popular. Yeah, you did. You knew all of this was going to happen.
Well, the other question I would ask is like, are there other options? So take a Taylor Swift. Like, are there other options outside of Live Nation venues? I'm asking you guys because I don't know.
No, probably not.
So she's kind of handcuffed, but at the same time, like, she's in bed with them too,
Well, and it's not just her. It's everybody. It's
everyone.
Anybody at her level. It's the Bruce Springsteens of the world. It's the U2s of the world. It's the massive acts that play these large venues that, yeah, who owns them? You're going to have to get in bed with them. Like, I'm not as angry at an artist as I am at the proprietor of the ticket, because
agreed. I'm glad you brought that up because I want to make that clear.
And I do think that there is the artist knows what's going to happen. They hear stuff behind the scenes. They know the money's going. Some of that money's going to come back to them. I mean, we talked about this with Machine Gun Kelly, months ago, about how his whole tour went on sale and sold out. I say that in quotation marks very quickly because that was all bought up by bots and put on secondary markets. Like, actual people didn't get tickets to these shows. That's the thing that really sucks about this entire thing, is nerds like us don't get to go to shows.
Did you guys see the latest TikTok trend with Taylor Swift?
No.
The latest TikTok trend, which it's probably still going on, is you post a video on TikTok of your view from your seat from historic Taylor Swift tours, and you post what you paid. So I saw one today, which is literally front row, and it says the Red Tour, $120. You know what I mean? Like that same ticket would be literally 10 grand at Gillette Stadium 10 years later, you know? Crazy.
Wow.
That's crazy. Especially because it disregards inflation. It has almost nothing to do with inflation at all. It's just pure monopoly to the number. I mean, it's one of the few sectors that I can think of that there's not even a duopoly, because that's already been soaked up into one company. So it's getting really dicey now, because the only competition against a company of this stature is, you know, independent. And independent doesn't have the infrastructure to support it, but the venue capacity to rival a Live Nation venue. And I'm speaking more specifically to sheds and stadiums. I mean, those are dialed in some cases, like a 15-year, 20-year contract going forward. So like, there's just literally no competition. And by that point, 20 years forward, other contracts have been signed to buy out other, we'll call it independent venues, because they've essentially, you know, folded on the poker table. So
we did this summer when we talked Tattoo the Earth, how Scott wasn't able to get the venues they wanted in 2000 for this fairly big tour with Slipknot as they're blowing up and all these other new metal bands and metal bands that are just their household names still to this day, 20 something years later. He couldn't get the right venues because he wasn't on the inside, because the inside is tough to get into, right? And Ticketmaster, Live Nation owns all these venues, and if you're not on board, as you said at the beginning of this, Nate, Pearl Jam trying to go off the beaten path and do their thing, they stopped pretty damn quick and are back in line because they're a big enough band to play those venues and they want to play them.
Exactly. There's only one avenue. If you think about the music industry singular to the airline industry, you have to think of it as there's just one airline, and there's multiple airlines, and there's multiple big players. In fact, there's like 6 major players in the airline industry. The music industry is one. So like, you have nowhere to go, and especially when you factor in, you know, substantial contracts for 2-year touring cycle that are very much so folded into the Live Nation program on an international scale. Like, there's just no way to get around it.
Yep.
Again, we're very conscious on not stepping on toes, because we are hypothetically in the industry at this point, but it's something that needs to be discussed. And I think it's becoming more front and center because of the Taylor Swift situation, because selling out pre-sale is just underscores how out of control this is getting. And I don't even know where it can go to this point. I think this has kind of hit its peak, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess to wrap us up, like, I would ask the question of where do we go from here? And I think the only way that the fan wins from here is that it gets broken up. And I think that's where, you know, you saw AOC tweet about it. Like, I think that has legs, but like, that might be a while.
Yeah, we're a ways out from it being broken up, but maybe the wheels are turning, maybe they're spinning. Who knows? Fingers crossed that we get to a point where the nerds can buy tickets when they go on sale and go to shows and not have to pay 10 grand to sit in a seat that they paid $120 to sit in 3 weeks ago.
Actually, one thing I will say is, like, you remember the whole Ticketmaster debacle where you got the vouchers, you got the $250 per ticket that you bought? The irony is, like, the fees now are way more than they ever were. So like, what good came out of that? I don't know.
Nothing.
I don't have the answers.
They found their way through that, and now they're reaping what they had to pay back on
100%.
that. Yeah.
Because I never took advantage of the vouchers because they weren't in my region, and the $2.50 per ticket expired before I could ever use it. So
yeah.
Oh yeah, it was a long play, and it was usually for shows that were underperforming sales wise, so it wasn't really correlated with, you know, reality.
True. Well, hey, not to bring you guys all down while you're listening to us in your car on your small business Saturday, you know, buying your mother a Christmas gift, but we appreciate you listening again. And yeah, this is obviously near and dear to our hearts because we want to go to big shows. We want to go to places that will have, you know, artists that we like, but we also don't want to get priced out of the market. So exciting times maybe in the future if Ticketmaster finally gets broken up. Fingers crossed, right?
100%. And I think this is, as Nate always says, it's like, you know, a blue ocean for anyone else that wants to get in the ticketing game. Like on a local scale, I've seen, you know, smaller retailers that you can buy tickets from for smaller venues. Like there's opportunities, but for the big boys, like we got to eat what they're serving, unfortunately.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's a ripe time for disruption, and we're getting to a point of something's going to change. So we'll see what happens.
Cheers, nerds. We appreciate it.
Peace, potheads. Thank you for listening to Podio Slave. We are at Podio Slave on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of the places that you can find us on social media. Facebook, Podio Slave Podcast. YouTube, Podio Slave Podcast there. Email us at podioslavepodcast@gmail.com. And hey, if you want to become a supporter, click on the link at the bottom of the episode and give us $1, give us $5. It keeps the lights on, keeps us going. We really appreciate that stuff. Thank you.